Yo, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Mouthful of Metal, a music and history podcast. I'm your host, Rich Hopkins, and what do you say we get right into it? So, today we're going to be talking about vocalists that have started out in their original bands but ventured out into other projects with other bands that we all know and love. So, today we're going to be talking about Joe Lynn Turner, real name Joey Liquido, for those of you that did not know that. So, Joe had a really interesting travel in his life as far as his music career goes. He was in a band called Vandango. He's originally from Nutley, New Jersey. He moved to the Village in New York City back in the early 80s. He lived in the west side and the east side of the Village. And one day he gets a call from this gentleman by the name of Barry Ambrosi. Uh, Barry was basically responsible for getting him hooked up with Ritchie Blackmore at the time when Ritchie was in search of a vocalist, and they got Joe on the phone. And Joe thought it was a joke by one of his friends or a couple of his friends. And Barry's talking to him, and he said, "No, I'm Ritchie's personal assistant. I've seen you play in clubs. We got some information on you." And Joe, like I said, Joe thought it was a joke. So he was ready to hang up the phone, and he said, "Well, put Ritchie on if he's there." And Ritchie gets on, and he goes, "Hello, mate. I'm a fan, and this and that." And to make a long story short, he invited Joe to come up to Syosset, New York. There was a recording studio up there where Ritchie and Barry and a lot of other people, Roger Glover was there behind the desk of the board. And he went and got right behind the mic, and they gave him an MP track, and he was notorious for writing his own lyrics. He used to carry it in his bag, and Ritchie called it his magic bag. So Joe told him to play this cut, and he's going through his notes, and he came up with the lyrics that he had written. And the first song that they basically laid down was "I Surrender" from Difficult to Cure, which was the first album that Joe Lynn Turner debuted on for Rainbow. Tremendous success. He had that album, then they did Straight Between the Eyes, and then they did Bent Out of Shape. Three great albums. If you don't have them in your catalog, and if you've never heard them before, I highly recommend you check them out. They are here in my library of CDs. I love all three of them albums. They're great. So Joe had a 3 album run with Rainbow, left, did some other projects, and then Ritchie went back to Deep Purple later on. And as they were putting things together for the Perfect Strangers album, which is phenomenal, by the way, it's one of my favorites. They had a vocalist that just really wasn't working out, and Ritchie Blackmore wasn't comfortable with it. So Rich said to the band, "I know a guy." So they called Joe Lynn Turner up again at the 11th hour, and they invited him to come up to Vermont. Now, you may not know this about Deep Purple, but they really never actually did studio recordings. They always used, and if you obviously we all know Smoke on the Water, making records with a mobile. They always did it from a mobile unit, so they would find really exotic places. The place up in Vermont, it was a swim club in the summertime, and then it was closed in the wintertime. So Deep Purple would rent really strange places like this to do recordings in. And if you listen to their albums, especially Slaves and Masters that Joe debuted on, it's really clean cut stuff. And it's really cool because you get to venture, you listen to different rooms and spaces, and you can, improvise and stuff like that. So Joe had an opportunity not once but twice to work with Ritchie Blackmore, once in Rainbow and the other in Deep Purple. Unfortunately, with Deep Purple, though, it was just the one album. And then egos and a lot of animosity came into play, and they started picking on Joe and everything. And, when you have bands that come from either England or Germany, they're set in their ways and how the music should be, and I guess who the clientele should be in the band. So Joe kind of had an uphill battle with that. But again, it was a great album. The Rainbow albums that Joe Lynn Turner appeared on were phenomenal. I highly recommend you check all 4 of them out, the Purple one and the Rainbow albums that I had mentioned before. But Joe Lynn Turner today is just still, he's amazing. He came out with this new album that's just so on the other side of the spectrum. It's really hard. It's not death metal, but it's got a really good drive to it. check it out if you get a chance to, listen to it. I checked bits and pieces out of it. Like the name of the album doesn't cross my mind right now, but check out Joe Lynn Turner's whole catalog if you get a chance. So with that being said, Ian Gillan from Deep Purple, obviously he's been in the band for a long time. He took a little bit of a sabbatical there when Joe was in the band. But Ian Gillan had an opportunity to record an album with Black Sabbath, and that album was called Born Again. And one of the songs was called Trashed. They did a video on MTV, and I remember when I seen it, I'm watching and I'm looking at Tony Iommi, and there's Geezer Butler, and there's Bill Ward on guitar, and Bill Ward on drums. And then I'm looking at the vocalist, I'm going, holy shit, that's Ian Gillan from Purple. Again, you listen to the whole album, it's just, it's not Ozzy, it's not Dio, it's just, he put a whole new twist on the album, and it's called Black Sabbath's Born Again. Highly recommend you checking that album out. It is a great piece of work. Pound for pound, the whole album is good. Every song, it just, he delivers just such magnitude because he's just got that voice. And I thought it was a wonderful fit. He just did the one album. Don't know what happened, if there was any falling out with the guys in the band. I have no idea, but I just know that that album itself was just spot on, and it was just out of the park. Good stuff. The other guy I want to talk about, and this guy really talk about getting a shot at the in the major leagues, is Tim Ripper Owens. Now, Tim played in a Judas Priest tribute band here in the States. He's from Akron, Ohio. And he had a Priest tribute band that he was in. And one of Scott Travis's friends, after Rob Halford left Judas Priest, one of Scott's friends had a videotape of Ripper playing at a club. And he gave it to Scott, and he said, hey, you may want to check this out and pass it on to the guys. Like, this guy's got some pipes. So Scott checked out the video, and he got a hold of Glenn, KK, and Ian over in England and said, I think I got a vocalist for us. Sent the tape over. Them guys checked it out. Ripper got a call from the management and was like, would you be interested in coming over and trying out for Judas Priest? Ripper flew over. I think he took a red eye, landed at, I believe it was either Heathrow or Gatwick Airport, and they met him. The band members met him there. I believe Scott flew over, and they were like, look, you've traveled this far, you look exhausted. And Ripper goes, I'm exhausted, but I want to sing. Now that says something about somebody that really wants, that it's in their blood. And for him to be able to just take a flight, who knows, there could have been turbulence or whatever, but anyway, he was exhausted, but the guy was able to get behind the mic, and I'm sure they had a long drive back to the studio, because I know most of them guys don't live near the downtown London area, or where these airports are. But anyway, he came in and he hit the tracks, he hit a couple of high notes, and Glenn paused the music, and Ripper thought, oh shit, what did I do? And they called him in, and they're like, you want the job, because we love it. We love what we're hearing. So you got 3 singers. Okay, one guy started out in a tribute band, made it up to stardom very quickly. And you got to remember too, Tim Owens, after Priest, bowed out gracefully, because KK Downing just did this interview, and he was saying that how Ripper was being mistreated. He was given my opinion, of course, and it's just an opinion, he was giving an opportunity to fill some big shoes when Halford left. The guy stepped up to the plate, and if the story is told correctly, when they were doing the Metalworks box set, they got together with Halford, and they were in England. I think they were at Rob's house, and they were going over pictures and what songs they were going to put into this box set. I have the box set down here. It's got studs around it. It's got a really cool picture of them from the 81 Vengeance tour, them with the stage with the Marshalls behind them. Great booklet. It's got really cool pictures in it. But Ripper bowed out gracefully to allow Halford to come back into the band so they can have the original 5 lineup. Now, Scott Travis wasn't an original member. He came in after Dave Holland left, after Ram It Down, because Scott made his debut on the Painkiller album. And again, if you didn't know it, and you put Painkiller in and you played the first track, which was Painkiller, and his drum intro, you were just like, you had to open up either the CD or the album and look at the jacket and see who the hell was on drums. Because I was shocked when I bought the cassette, and when I opened it up, I'm looking at this guy and I'm going, who the fuck is this? Like, where's Holland? Wasn't in the band. It's Scott Travis. It was a great career move on Judas Priest. He bought a lot of thump. He bought a lot of fire and steam. I mean, his energy was just like off the rails. I got to see them play live twice. And again, Scott went on and did a lot of other stuff with Fight and with Halford's project. But anyway, back to the three vocalists. I mean, like, Tim started in a tribute band, got his shot in the big leagues that way. Ian Gillan was from a very successful band, obviously Deep Purple, who we know and love, still with them today. And then you got Joe Lynn Turner, who basically was just a guy from Nutley, New Jersey, who lived in the city of New York, playing in clubs, looking for a gig. And the thing too with Joe Lynn Turner, a lot of people don't know, he is a really good guitar player. So when he got into Purple, there was no guitar work. But when he was in Rainbow, a couple of the shows that he played, and I believe it was on the Straight Between the Eyes tour, he actually came out with a Gibson SG and was doing some rhythm stuff while Richie was doing the main solo work, because that's just how Richie was. But to hear Joe's work on guitar, not to mention being a good vocalist, again, out of the park, great stuff. But like I said before, if you get a chance, listen to the stuff that Joe did with Rainbow. Check out the album that Ian Gillan was on with Black Sabbath, which is Born Again. Tim Owens, like I said, he did 2 studio albums with Priest and 2 live albums. It was Jugulator and it was Demolition, and then they put out 2 live albums. My voice, when they were playing the Electric Factory in Philly, you hear them do the Sentinel, and you hear somebody bark out the Sentinel, because I seen the show the night before in New York City, then I went and seen it in Philly. So I was kind of like pre-ready to, put my 2 cents into my top vocals for this. But anyway, I it's just one of them things I just wanted to throw in there. But that's really basically it. These guys, to me, are just phenomenal vocalists. But with Ripper, I just want to also add into, after Priest, he did work with Iced Earth. He did an album with Yngwie Malmsteen, as well as Joe Lynn Turner. So, like, Yngwie kind of had, like, both of these guys in the band. Joe played on Rising Force. Again, great album. I'm not sure what album that Tim recorded, but it was later on down the road. But again, with his vocal range, it's just, spot on. How can you miss, One of those things. But that's all that I got for today. Hey, hope everybody's doing great. If you're in the Garden State, we got a crappy rainy day here. But hope everybody's doing well. As I said before, there are a lot of good shows coming up. I got KK's Priest coming up soon. We're going to go check that show out. With Ripper Owens, of course, he bought Tim back for this project, which is phenomenal. And just a little FYI for you metalheads out there, which I'm sure you probably know, or if you don't know, Slayer is making a comeback on a final chapter farewell tour. They're going to be playing the Garden, I believe it's March 8th, Madison Square Garden, New York City. Yours truly and my brother from another mother, Stoner Fletch, will be there, raising the horns up, kicking ass, and having a great time like we did when we seen Pantera there. So if you get a chance to come out to the show, inbox me, let me know you're going to be there. Let's hook up. We can maybe do an interview. We can talk, drink some beers or whatever, twist up a couple fatties, and we'll have a great rock and roll time. Until then, take care of yourselves and each other. And remember, folks, horns up. I'll talk to everybody soon. See ya.